Hello, we are Group 7 and we are presenting on nation-state threat actors. I'm Manmitha and I'm joined today with Zach, Allison, and Mohammed to present this topic to you all today. In this agenda, we will be covering who are nation-state threat actors, current nation-state threat trends, example cases of nation-state attacks, future trends of the nation-state threat actor, responses, and the conclusion. Who are they? Nation-state threat actors are state-sponsored or affiliated hackers with a cyber warfare mission. Some of the main purposes of exploitation include intelligence gathering and espionage from government agencies or large companies to replicate from the stolen intellectual property or utilize the collected intelligence for their own international strategic advantage. Infrastructure disruption by targeting networks with sensitive information or against critical infrastructure like telecommunications and utilities, etc., to cripple a nation state. Activism and propaganda, which is a slightly less common purpose, but nation-states still exfiltrate to promote their own political and ideological agendas. For mere acquisition and development exploitation, especially of the original source code, as well as profitability, such as from hacking into banking systems across the world. The nature of many of these hackers include being recruited by these nation-states, covert understandably, as nation-states would not want stolen information or intellectual property to be linked back to them. Resurgent, as many of these nation-states utilize various hackers as well as tools and tactics over the years to gain intel. And these hackers also operate and infiltrate within and outside country borders. Now, Zach will be talking about current nation-state trends.
Now that we've looked at what a nation-state threat actor looks like, their purpose, and their nature, it's now important to see what the current trends are relating to this current threat actor, especially on a global cybersecurity landscape. Before diving into specifics on what a nation-state threat actor looks like, I think it's very valuable to add context to this specific threat actor by giving some general metrics and some general trends that are facing these threat actors in the current environment. For instance, 23% of all data breaches involve nation-state threat actors, and a matter of fact, they are second in the rate of frequency among all threat actors in regards to their involvement in cyber attacks on private and public sectors. These threat actors tend to specialize in cyber espionage cases, 96% of all cyber espionage involving nation-states, and their impact is absolutely enormous, with a reported $300 billion being stolen from U.S. interests by Chinese state actors. And just last year alone, 40,000 warnings are generated by Google's threat analysis group related to nation-state threat actors attempting to make breaches worldwide. So all these stats beg the question, what do these threat actors look like now? Well, currently their top targets are public sector agencies and the data they hold, private sector intellectual property, personal identifiable information stored on private and public sector databases. Victims typically are targeted not only for economic gain, but of course for political gain between two nation states. Normally, the attacks from these threat actors manifest themselves with cyber espionage, web-based application attacks through malware, and the utilization of actually enterprise technologies and online cloud services such as OneDrive. The top actors in this space typically are considered to be Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And if it's a smaller nation state without the resources of these bigger countries, they can hire cyber mercenaries, which are typically hackers actually from these larger nation states to act on the behalf of smaller ones. And this also can manifest itself through affiliated groups with nation state actors. And you can see under the emblems of these various nations the examples in which they have acted in cyber warfare against both private and public interests. And in fact, we're going to move on looking at Iran and North Korea acting as nation-state threat actors in various data breaches.
Nation-state threat actors employ a variety of tactics, techniques, and procedures on their targets. More recent cases from November 2019 have included attacks by APT-33. APT-33 is a cyber threat group linked to Iran. They have targeted many aerospace, petrochemical, energy, and other sectors, as well as government agencies throughout the years with the purpose of espionage with more recent destructive tactics. More recently, they've been spotted using botnets for targeted attacks against governments and academics in the Middle East, US, and Asia, including private national security and oil companies, military hospitals, and university students in these regions. In this case, these botnets are a small group of about a dozen infected computers that are being used to gain persistence within their target's networks. Each bot also has its own command and control server that are hosted on cloud proxies, which relay URL requests from the infected bots to backend to report back to a data aggregator and a bot control server. These APT-33 actors then are able to connect to these aggregators by using a virtual private network with frequently changing exit nodes. These actors can then command the bots to collect data using these connections. APT-33 has also changed up its tactics. It is now using a new remote access Trojan, more specifically the NJRAT that runs in the background silently and collects data about the system, users, and network activity. Over the years, it has also been spotted with a variety of other malware. Being aware through a combination of intelligence sources allows companies and agencies to take the first step in detecting vulnerabilities and protecting their assets.
The Lazarus Group is a cybercrime group that's been linked to the North Korean government. They conduct fast cash attacks, stealing money from ATMs from banks in Asia and Africa. They've been known to do this since at least 2016. To make the fraudulent withdrawals, Lazarus first breaches targeted banks' networks and compromises the switch application servers handling the ATM transactions. Once the servers are compromised, malware is deployed. This malware in turn intercepts fraudulent cash withdrawal requests and sends fake approval responses. With the fast cash attack, Lazarus Group has gotten more than $10 million, and they're allegedly responsible for the theft of $81 million from the Central Bank of Bangladesh in 2016. Now that we know more about current nation-state trends and we've seen examples, we'll be talking about the future of nation-state threat actors. In 2019, state-sponsored actor attacks rose 42%, and we're still finding out about attacks from 2019. In a January 8th statement, the Federal Bureau of Investigation revealed that 2 U.S. municipalities have been hacked by nation-state actors through Microsoft SharePoint server. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, made a statement before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee in November of 2019. He said that the frequency and severity of malicious cyber activity on our nation's private sector and government networks has increased dramatically in the past decade, and that we expect this trend to continue. He also shared that some of the most dangerous malicious cyber activity is high-level intrusions by state-sponsored hackers. The FBI also sees an increased use of botnets by nation-states. One of the reasons we can expect an increase in cyber attacks from nation-states is that they've been found to be much cheaper than launching traditional military attacks. The United States allocates the most money out of any other country for defense. Cyber attacks are a way for countries with less means to fill the gap and still have meaningful impacts on their targets without having to spend as much. Many of us know about Russia's role in the 2016 presidential election, but as Zach said, there are other nation-states that we should be looking out for, including North Korea, China, and Iran. Now I'll pass it over to Mohammed, who will be talking about responses to nation-state attacks.
Thanks, Allison. Today we'll be talking about responses to nation-state attacks. The first response would be to invest in cyber threat intelligence. With cyber threat intelligence, you can pinpoint motives of nation-states and use these motives to patch up any vulnerabilities found within your organization to prevent any attacks from occurring. The next response would be for every organization to invest in their cybersecurity infrastructure overall. With this investment, nation-state attacks can be prevented, as well as any other attacks by other threat actors. The third response would be to impose sanctions on countries that are known to be involved in cybercrime. This would deter other countries from getting involved, as well as forcing countries already involved to stop. The third response would be to instill a system of accountability in the world with regards to nation-state attacks. If a country is known to be involved with cybercrime, they should be exposed and punished. To close out our presentation, I would like to leave you with 4 major points. The first point is that nation-state attacks are on the rise and will continue to grow in the coming years. The second point is that billions of dollars have already been lost to these attacks, and this figure will continue to grow as the rate of attacks continues to grow. The third point is that nation-state attacks have had a profound impact on politics. This has been seen in the 2016 election and our current election this year. And finally, intellectual property is being lost due to espionage done by nation-state attacks. More intellectual property will be lost in the coming years as attacks continue to rise. If there's any questions, please do let us know.